Chargers fans, general fans is a part of the podcast in general. I'm back. Took a while for me to put together some content this week because there's a lot going on and a lot of negativity, to be honest. And I'm not one to just harp on negativity and things of that nature. I like to be optimistic, but also like to be realistic in a sense. So it took me a while to make this video because again, we all know what the low hanging fruit is with the Chargers right now in regards to them coming off another loss, a really a brutal loss against the Commanders over the weekend. And I mean, it's no secret. It's very glaring issues that the Chargers have on the offensive line that haven't been rectified as of yet. And it seems to be getting worse because people are still dropping like flies in the sense of injuries. So we'll talk about all that. But I kind of want to take a different approach and different turn this time around in this video, in all honesty, because there's some other issues here that I have on my docket that I think it needs to be addressed. Of course, I am coach defense. I'm always going to have a keen eye, from a defensive perspective. So I want to talk about Jesse Minter and his defense today, in all honesty. I think there's some things that we have to address. I think they're kind of being masked or overshadowed or, kind of ignored in a sense that need to be addressed. In all honesty, I really, really believe that there's more to meet the eye with this Chargers team in this moment, and I think we need to call it out because I think it needs to be fixed. Can it be fixed? Certain things can be fixed, certain things cannot. But I do think there's something that we need to focus on because, to be quite honest and frankly honest about this whole situation at this moment, with the offensive line having his woes with his injuries and his inability to protect Herbert to a large degree, we have to understand that the Chargers defense is going to be called upon more to step up and lead the charge in a sense, and be getting a lot of praise of being the and being top ranked in scoring and passing yardage and touchdowns given up. But there's more issues when you pull back the curtain. There's more issues with this defense when you pull back the curtain than meets the eye. So we're going to get into what I don't like about this defense and what I think that needs to be improved upon, as well as we'll talk about some injuries and what we can look forward to coming into Sunday's matchup against the Dolphins. But so starting off with the defense as a whole, man. Like I said, it's a multitude of issues going on here, but just getting into the brass tacks of it all, and I'll try to be as high level as I can for those that are not football air quote purists. But when it comes down to what I don't like about this defense, it's very simple and honest. And I think that people aren't really focusing on this, and the things I see with my football eye that people may not see from a 30,000-foot view. But when it comes down to this defense in a sense, although I think that Jesse Minter is a very savvy and very intelligent defensive coordinator, there's still some issues there. I think that this defense, and it just could be the way the NFL is trending, but I also think that certain teams that are more successful in the NFL right now don't have these issues necessarily. So I think that first and foremost, I think this defense is very bend don't break. I really think that this defense can be ran on. I think defense can be passed on. I really think that Jesse Minter relies on the fact that he wants to kind of pin you into short spaces and shorten areas, and just keep you from scoring touchdowns in a sense. And I think that's a really, really I guess you can say passive way to address things when it comes down to defense. Now, he might be feeling like, because the NFL is so offensive leaning, that's pretty much how you have to live, right? But again, I see other teams in this league don't lean into that direction and they still have success, and I think there's still some dominant defenses out there in NFL that do things a little bit better. And I think we have similar personnel. So I'm not understanding exactly why we're playing this style of defense, but that's what they're doing. Like I said, very bend don't break. That I see a lot of long runs. I see a lot of soft zones, a lot of short passes being given up, and they just are, Jesse Minter is really banking on the fact that you're going to have to use 10 to 12 plays to get down the field. You just don't want to give up the big play. It's almost like you're playing Madden in a sense. You just don't want to give up the big play. You don't want to give up the bomb before a quick touchdown. You just want to make them have to beat you by 1,000 cuts rather than one, kind of thing. So it's very bend don't break. I don't like that. Another issue that I've been talking about for a good while in my videos, the serious lack of pass rush. That's very, very, very telling. And I think that Jaden Daniels and Jackson Dart especially really exploited that in the fact that we can't get off the quarterback consistently. And I don't think that Kyle Kennard, Caleb Murphy, I'm gonna give Thule a whole lot of criticism because he is doing his thing. I believe he's leading the team in sacks at this moment. So yeah, I'm gonna give him a whole lot of beef, but I think that the issues of getting as the quarterback in a large space is a problem. And you giving quarterbacks time to throw the ball. If you're gonna play soft zone and give quarterback time to throw the ball, there's gonna be holes open everywhere. And there's a reason why the Chargers give up a lot of passing yards as well. So that's another problem. Another issue I have is they're very zone dependent. I think they don't play a lot of man. At certain times, certain places, certain areas of the game where you just have to get in the receiver's face, play man coverage, and hope the pass rush gets there. But if you have a weak pass rush and you don't have the man cover corners to do that, that's gonna disallow you from being able to do that. So that's a problem. But I think it's very zone dependent, and zones can be exploited. Especially with savvier quarterbacks. Savvier quarterbacks know that there's only but a handful of coverages you're going to play. You can try to mix and match and try to play games with it, but at the end of the day, I know that you're going to be too high cover 4, cover 2 style of defense most times. I know what type of plays to call. And I think that's where the limitations of the defense is going on right now. I think the limitations of this defense has it really tied to zone and not a whole lot of man. And again, it might be a stylistic thing, personnel thing. You don't trust the guys that you have at corner to play man to man at a high clip. Maybe that's the case, but I do think it's really zone dependent. I think that's a tell. If I know going into the game as an offensive coordinator, they're gonna play a lot of zone. I'm going to game plan my style of play calling to the idea that they're going to play a lot of zone, and I'm just going to eat off that. So I think that's the issue too. I think they also, from a Jesse Minter's perspective, is in to pinpoint him exactly. I think this defense is very scheme dependent. I think that they get pressure up front in run defense, the blitzes, just the play calls he has to call in order to make this defense have any success is an issue. I think that sometimes in certain places, certain cases, you just got to line up and go man on man and beat the man in front of you. And I don't think this Chargers team is built like that, especially with Khalil Mack and other guys being hurt at this moment. I don't think it's that type of defense is able to do that. You can look at teams like the Chiefs and other defenses in the league where they can just line up in with 4 down. The Giants, another team that I've been looking at recently, they can line up 4 guys and just go after the quarterback and allow the defense to hold up in the back end because they have really good front 4, front 5. So that's one of those things where you just have to go man on man, mono and mono at certain times, and I don't think the Chargers defense can do it. I think Justin Miller has to call the right scheme, right time, right place in order for them to be able to have success on the defensive side of the ball. So that's an issue, is from my perspective too. And just to get into the numbers, in its entirety, they're 27th in the league in rushing yards per carry. I think they're giving up almost like 5 yards a carry from a rushing perspective. They're 19th in rushing yards given up, so very low in that space. So I think there's really misleading numbers in that case, because again, a lot of people give the Chargers defense credit because they rank high in scoring and passing touchdowns, but you're still giving them the opportunity to get deep into your territory and in red zones and kick field goals and nothing else, which leads to points. And then you have struggles on offense that's going to put you behind a ball every single time. So I think that the idea, going back to my original point about the bend don't break, and this was just allowing them to drive and drive and drive on you, and then you can kind of strengthen and kind of push back against them in the red zone. Again, you're giving up points a lot of times. A lot of times you're giving up points. It may not be 7, but it's going to be 3 for sure with these kickers in the NFL nowadays. So again, I think this defense has a lot to improve upon, and I think that sometimes you just have to go best on best and just get after the guys in front of you. If you can't do that, at least maybe 10 to 15% of the game, you're going to struggle, because if Jesse doesn't call the right play, the right time, right place, in the right position at the right time, or we can't get after the passer, guess what? You're going to have struggles on the defensive side, and they're going to give up points. And that's what we saw, especially in the Commanders game. The Commanders game exploited that to a high level. Bill Krosky, Merritt, and those guys had a field day on his defense because we just couldn't get after Jaden. I couldn't stop the run, couldn't hold the edge. A lot of problems. So I think that's really something that we need to focus on and try to get better at in order for the defense to be able to be a stout defense in its entirety, holistically from 20 to 20. That's the rule where they say, how you defend from their 20 to your 20 is very paramount to be a successful defense. Not just how you defend in the red zone on your side of the ball, but their 20 to our 20. How do you defend them in that space will determine how good your defense is. If we can defend better in those spaces and in that part of the field, I think that the Chargers defense can hold up and be a more of a leaning part of this team. You can lean on them more and say that we can depend on the defense to stop people and give the offense more chances. But if the defense is giving up points and the offense is struggling, that's going to be a recipe to lose a lot of games. So, just being honest there. But I think that was my issues with the defense in regards to what they have and problems that, and hopefully Jesse Minter can, slowly but surely, I guess you'd say, quote unquote, fix these issues. But in the interim of that, we did have some decent news here. We want to know is help on the way. They did go out and make a trade. They traded Alohi Gilman away for Odafe Oweh from the Ravens, former first round pick. Wearing 98. Thank God he was wearing 51 his first day. That looked really nasty. I'm glad he changed to 98. That looks much better on him. So he's been practicing the last couple of days with the team. He plans on playing against the Dolphins on Sunday. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on the field. He is what I've been asking for in a lot of spaces, about having a really good speed edge rusher that can get after the quarterback and chase down mobile quarterbacks, because still we have that problem of chasing down mobile quarterbacks, containing him in the pocket, getting after him, having to spy. If he don't spy, they run for days. So I can promise you, if Odafe Oweh is on this field and he can get free, chase down a quarterback, it will be a very short lived experience for a scrambling quarterback if he can do that, because he is very, very fast on the edge. And I'll get into the particulars and what he is and what he isn't here now. So, my review of him and getting him, like I said, Alohi Gilman went away, and I'm okay with that. I've said that I would definitely rather have RJ Mickens on the field than him, and we're going to see that soon, which I'm very happy about. But getting into Odafe in itself, that again, he's a 6'5", 251-pound edge rusher. He ran a 4.38 at the combine, which is very fast for an edge rusher guy at 251 pounds. That is very fast. You can see he's very lean, he's speedy, very tall, guy that has great speed. He has really good bend off the edge. I do like his bend off the edge. He's very fast. He's very quick. And anybody that's slow footed from a tackle perspective, he's going to walk right around you. I do like that aspect of it. I think he's really aggressive going after the football as he gets into the quarterback. He caused a lot of fumbles. He punches the ball out a lot, so that can do nothing but bode well for the Chargers by causing fumbles and causing turnovers. We need more of that. But I do have some criticism about his game, and I think that's why the Ravens were kind of frustrated with him, maybe moved on from him, is because he does lack dominant pass rushing moves. He relies heavily on his speed to get around the edge. Now, he has great bend. Now, if he can beat you with his speed, then you'll have a long day. Well, that's where it stops. He does not convert speed to power very much. And I think that's very underrated and very needed skill in the NFL for edge rushers these days, because you are dealing with elite tackles. Obviously they're hurt right now, but you're dealing with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. Speed is not going to work. You have to convert speed to power, have really good pass rush moves to even beat them if you can. Penei Sewell, the Taylor Deckers of the world, all these guys that are Jordan Mailata. You're looking at guys that really can block pretty much every facet of an edge rush. So you got to have multiple facets or abilities to get to the quarterback. And I don't think he's really refined in the speed to power department. And if you're looking for a speed to power guru as a young player, look at Jared Verse. The other kid in LA, Jared Verse, the young kid from LA, the LA Rams, is a really good speedy edge rusher, but he converts speed to power like no other young person I've seen in a good little while. So if you can see him get towards you really fast with a really quick first step, and he can power rush you and bull rush you into the quarterback. That's what you need. That's what you need at that size, that strength, that height that Odafe Oweh has. So he has to work on that. And I really believe that if he gets under the tutelage of Khalil Mack, who's a really good power rusher, I think that that combined with strengthening him some, if he's going to remain with the team going forward, because he is in the last year of his deal, then I think that he needs to work on that. But I do believe he does add a dynamic that we don't have in this edge rushing room, and giving us some juice there. And I think that he's going to be a problem for the Dolphins tackles for sure. So I believe that him rushing the passer, at least in the DPR role, or maybe he's going to start because Bud Dupree is banged up. If he starts opposite Tuli Tuipulotu, I like our edge rushing room already more so than I did a week ago. So I do believe this is a great move for them, and it's a building block. I think they just want to see what he has, and if they can build upon what he has now and use his skill set and refine him and develop him a little bit more. Again, we're hoping Khalil Mack can aid to that. Then he can be a good solid edge rusher, and you can think about re-signing him in the offseason. But if he doesn't have anything that you want going forward, then you can let him go, and it's not going to cost you much of anything. A little bit of a draft pick swap with the Ravens, but hey, they're low round picks, so it's not a real big deal. But I do believe that he can add something to the room for at least the remainder of the season. I do like the move for sure. For sure. Now, getting into the idea of what can be done to fix this team, right? There's a few things, really all offensive centric, right? I do believe there's some things you could potentially do on defense, maybe another D tackle, but I think that's, quote unquote, I'm not gonna say low hanging fruit, but it's not as high of a priority than it is the offense. I think because we have two injuries with the running back situation with Najee Harrison going out and now Amari Hampton's on the IR as well, I think that you got to go out and trade for running back. There's rumors that guys like Brees Hall, he's you see here, Al Kamara, Devon Achan could be available for trade. And I think that if there are sellers at the trade deadline and they're kind of in need of getting off these guys' contracts, I think this should be very cheap to trade for. So I would definitely like Brees Hall is my number one, Alvin Kamara two, and the Devon Achan number three if you're going to trade for a running back. Now, we will get a Mario Hampton back, but we need a guy. I said this last week. You're going to need another guy to quote unquote not burn the Mario Hampton out. So if you get Brees Hall, that 1-2 combination with Brees Hall and Mario Hampton, I would have loved that. Even Alvin Kamara, because he's a really good 3-down running back. You know, he's good out the backfield. He's good running the ball. And Devon Achan, if he can stay healthy, he's good. He's good as well. Really speedy back. So I like any of those moves, more so Kamara and Brees Hall. But if Devon Achan is available for a cheap price, why not? But we definitely need a running back. I don't think we can depend on Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins to carry the load, in my personal opinion. I like Kamani Vidal. Wish he would stay on the roster. Wish we still have Raheem Sanders, but not gonna cry with spilled milk. But I do think you need another guy with some juice to carry this run game, in my opinion. Next, you need to trade for a center. The Saints are talking about maybe being in a trade market before the deadline, and maybe Eric McCoy is going to be available. I think if you can trade for Eric McCoy, who's under contract for another 3 years after this year, and he's a very solid Pro Bowl as center, I will go out and get him and just jettison Bradley Bozeman altogether. You know, honestly, with Joe All coming back, Trey Pipkin hopefully gets healthy. You can slide Eric McCoy into the lineup with Zion and Mekhi Becton, and hopefully they stay healthy as well. Then I think that's a really good, much better situation from an O-line perspective than it would be with the current regime we have. I'm sorry, Brandon Mosby has to go. I've been saying it. I was mad that they brought him back personally. I didn't think that he was worth the juice was worth the squeeze. Gave him a 2-year deal on top of that. I understand, you like his veteran presence, but he does not give you enough as a center. He has to be the leader and the captain of this line, and he's the worst one. In all honesty, per grade, he's the worst lineman that the Chargers have right now that starts. I'm even to the point if you can't trade for Eric McCoy right away, even give Andre James a shot. I mean, again, what could be worse? I mean, I think Andre James will at least give us a better look from a pass protection perspective. May not be in the running game, but the pass protection, if you're going to throw the ball more, I give Andre James a shot because Bradley Bozeman is definitely a hindrance and a negative, cloud on this offense right now. So I would definitely consider doing something different, personally. But we got to deal with it for right now. But I definitely believe that if you can upgrade a center, I would do it tomorrow. And tight ends, I think that Tyler Conklin needs to go. I think that was a waste of a free agent pickup. In all honesty, he's not engaged. He's not in tune. I don't know because he's not getting the ball. He didn't get the ball much in New York either, so I'm not sure what the issue is. But he's very out of touch. He's wiping his hands before he's supposed to catch some football in the Commanders game. It's just weird. Bumping into Ladd McConkey, knocking him down in the Giants game. Just a lot of blunders here, man. Ronnie Gaskin is still coming along, but they got Tyler Conklin because he's a better blocker. But I would move on. I would really just move on. Will Disley doesn't give you much outside of blocking either. So Arani's going to be a pass catching guy. I would try to go out and get David Njoku or Mark Andrews to be your 1 or 2 down guys versus second down guys. If Mark Andrews or David Njoku is available in any space, I will go out and get them because they give you 2 dynamics. They block well and they pass catch well. So if they're available for a cheap price as well, or we can trade away another depth asset, another safety or corner, somebody like that, or maybe Caleb Murphy or somebody like that. They want an edge rusher, or hell, they want an O-lineman that we can get rid of. Then trade them that and get those guys in house because I'm for them adding to this room going into the rest of the season. So I would say that's the most glaring things you need to do. If you can rectify those areas, I think we're in much better shape than you are today. So if they can do any of all of those moves, I would do them tomorrow. That's just my personal opinion. Edge rush was another thing, but it went out and got Odafe Oweh, so I'm happy with that. So, I mean, if they want to find another D tackle to help in the middle, to help target Jamari Caldwell, then cool, because Naquan Jones and Deshaun Hand are, reserves, and one of them is hurt. So, I think you might need to add some depth there. But outside of that, man, I would definitely address offense in a big way if I could trade before the deadline. So before we get out of here, of course, we were talking about the injuries. Amari Hampton's on IR with an ankle. Khalil Mack is on the IR with an elbow. They designated to return at some point. Joe Hall is out with an ankle. He's doubtful for this game. But he is out his walking boots. So that's good news. Mekhi Becton, had an issue with his hand. He's probably gonna wear a brace or a cast or something on it, but he did practice fully as of Thursday. Darius Davis still hadn't practiced with his knee. Jamari Salyer is now out and did not practice with a knee. Bud Dupree's limited in practice with a hamstring, and that was a tricky injury. Deshaun Hand did not practice on Thursday because of growing. Quentin Johnston is limited in practice with a hamstring, and Denzel Perryman, which is a bright spot, he's finally back practicing full with his ankle, so maybe he'll play and help out that run defense with him and Deion Henley. So that's a boost. So you add Denzel and Odafe into this defense, I think we got a better chance personnel wise. So that is optimistic and positive for me. That I think the defense should play a little bit better, especially getting at the Tua in that offense. But yeah, if Perryman plays, I'm feeling a little better about the defense, but the offense gives me nightmares. Based upon the O line, we might have to roll out there and going against that pass rush in Miami. I don't like it. I don't like it. Again, I will harken back and call back on what I said about last week's keys. Run the ball. Run the ball as much as you possibly can, but yet again, you down another back. So you gotta, lean on Kamani Vidal. I would argue that I would bring up Naeem Himes. I mean, bring up Naeem Himes, Kamani Vidal, and Hassan Haskins and run the ball with them as a committee. That's what I would do. Run the ball, keep that pass rush at bay, tire them out, then pass the ball when needed. But I would not do a whole lot of drop back, 4 to 5 second reads and try to get the ball down the field. I would not do that because it's going to be recipe for disaster for getting Justin Herbert hit more, even more this game than would be last game. So I wouldn't do it, but that's not my call, but that's my recommendation. So we'll see what the Chargers do this weekend. But I do like what the defense is trending towards. We just got to get these guys back on the field, that aren't hurt for the season. Because only Najee, is hurt for the season. And thank God nobody else is hurt. We pray for his recovery. But I think that overall, once we get all these guys back, we're in better shape. But we just got to hold the line and keep the water off the boat until then. We got to win the games we can until these guys come back. So we'll see how things roll, man. But we'll see what happens Sunday, man. Hopefully we'll get a positive outcome and we'll can get things righted for next week. But yeah, we'll see how we flow against the Miami Dolphins. Got to go to East Coast, play an early game, so hopefully that doesn't affect us. But we'll see how things roll. But I think if the Chargers can run the ball, we can hopefully get a victory. But we'll see. Fingers crossed. But if you're looking for Electric Shop Podcast any space, anytime, man, hit us up. Electric Shop Pod across all platforms. Hit that subscribe button on the channel to never miss an upload, man. Hit us up on any social media platforms if you had any questions about Chargers news. And we'll be back reviewing the game next week. And hopefully we have more videos coming out next week to have some positive news that we can break down and not be so convoluted and depressed that we can't seem to get victories and can't seem to protect Justin Herbert. So we're going to pray for Justin Herbert's survival. And hopefully we can get healthy sooner than later. But that's my time for this video today. And like I said, hit the like button, drop a comment if you have any. And we'll be back into another video after the game. So until then, you always got to remember to boat up.